I think we sometimes don't, especially here in America, and I focus on that because that's where we live. It's just kind of nonchalant, like, oh, well, things are, it's not going to happen here. It's on the shores of America. Yeah. America is a very volatile, very precarious situation all the way around.
Yes.
I mean, all the way around. The Lord spoke to me about geopolitical agenda. I'll get into that a little bit, but it's not just about our nation, although we see a lot happening and it's a very pivotal time in the season. But it's connected to everything else in the world. Yeah. And I remember, I'm always reminded of that vision that I saw in the park. I think this was in 2021 where the Lord kept telling me the bases are loaded. And it was an actual vision that I saw of a baseball. It was an actual baseball field in a park. And the Lord showed me the bases being loaded, but they were loaded with nations, and how he demonstrated that the one that was on home was about to knock it out of the park. Mm. And so I always come back to that because it becomes more vivid, not only in the vision, but now that we're in this season, in this climate, all over the world. And so, yeah, that's key. So let's go to Luke chapter 6, verses 12 through 13, because we're talking about our model, which is Jesus, and how we're to govern ourselves in continual, consistent prayer. It says, now it came to pass in those days that he went out to the mountain to pray and continued all night in prayer to God. When's the last time we had an all night? I mean, we had shut-ins.
Yeah.
And they were powerful shut-ins. And we would pray all night, on our faces all night. You fell asleep, you woke up, you kept praying. It was this perpetual hunger and desperation. And it's just very fragmented now. And I'm praying that through this prayer challenge, we will find ourselves in where we are and what we need to do to get on track. And so verse 13 says, and when it was day, he called his disciples to himself. And from there, he chose 12, whom he also named apostles. This is the season when they were still disciples. But Jesus took time as a leader to pray all night before his selection. Because there were others, disciples that followed him. There were those that he called, but there were others that, from, their following, they had disciples. And so it's interesting that he took as a leader that time to pray all night. And then he also named the apostles. And it just goes into their names, verse 14, Simon, whom he also called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew, Matthew and Thomas, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Simon called the Zealot. And then it was Judas, the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who also became the traitor.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting that he took time as a leader to pray. And leaders can learn from that all night. He didn't pray for an hour. He prayed all night to the Father. And it's so powerful that he then came from that prayer time and he began to name. And he changed their position. Do you know that? Do you see that? He changed their position from being disciples whom he had trained.
Yes.
And now apostles.
Apostles, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let that sink in. Let's go to Mark.